So good morning, I'm Scott Rotruck, and I have the honor of being the chair of the Public Education Collaborative. I'm also on the state school board, and my spare time, I work for Vertx, which is a private company in the defense sector, and I'm an angel investor, so everything that we're talking about this morning has me really pumped up. Plus, I'm slightly over-caffeinated, which is not unusual. So, but we're targeting reimagining energy and fueling innovation. And I just want to thank Federal Co-Chair Manchin. Fabulous start for us, Gail. Thanks so much. You really got us started. But what you kind of made me think of succinctly is we need to think globally, plan regionally, as she said, and then act locally to the best of our ability. And that's how we're going to get things done. I love the new grants that you've put in place. They're really going to empower us to get things done in Appalachia, in all 423 counties, with all 26 million people. It's really great. And Nathan, thanks again for starting us off. I actually looked Nathan up. I read 3 of his papers that he'd done in college. What I understood was the title and the page numbers. Okay? The work, I didn't understand anything else, but I understand what he showed us just then. That was really fabulous. Energy from coal, oil, natural gas, this has been a big part of our state forever and will continue to be. And one thing I learned, and I've heard Senator Manchin say this so often, and it was a big part of the Inflation Reduction Act, is energy security. We need to make sure as we transition that we do just what Nathan pointed out, we stay reliable, that we make sure people have what they need. And we can do it all. We truly can do it all. And West Virginia, thanks to our legislature and the governor's office, have made some big changes in recent times to facilitate us being a part of the new green economy. It's fabulous. And coal can be thought of, and I'll get on to our panel then and get off the soapbox, but coal can be thought of in new ways as carbon ore. It's the source of carbon from which we can make things like carbon fiber. We can make graphite that we need. All the supply chain needs that Nathan talked about, a lot of that we can supply from West Virginia. We can keep a lot of our industries of the future by innovating. We need to innovate our way to the future, not just regulate our way to the future. But when regulations are in our favor, let's take advantage of them. So I want to say thanks to each one of our panelists for being here. This audience today, as Don and I have been just jumping up and down, this is fabulous having you all here. It's an incredible mix of people, public, private, academic, nonprofit, all working together and working regionally. We're going to hear from Valerie Carplus from CMU in a little bit. This is a regional effort, and we're so appreciative. But in West Virginia right now, we have some tremendous news that's really giving us so much confidence for the future. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go over and sit in that middle seat, and we're going to have a discussion. And each one of the panelists are really going to tell you a little about themselves. If you look at our website, all their resumes are there. They're powerful, they're complete, and they're really worth the read. But right now, I'm just going to tell you who we have. We have John Farris, who's the Vice President and General Manager of Nucor Steel, West Virginia. We have Stephen Fox, the Vice President of Quality and Technology at PPC Metals, TIMET, part of the Berkshire Group that you heard about the announcement. I had dinner with him last night. It was a blast. And you'll love his accent. It's not West Virginia, but you'll love his accent when you hear him talk. And Arria Hines is with us, a prime partner for the Appalachian Regional Clean Hydrogen Hub, ARCH2. That's a competition that's going on now. She has been hunkered down working like crazy. I know, because there's a lot of competition to get that hydrogen hub. And then Ted Wiley, the co-founder and president of Form Energy. So we have a variety of people, long tenured companies like Nucor that started with Mr. Olds from the Oldsmobile fame as they went through their changes, and now they're a major company, one of the best producers of steel in the entire world. We have really with Ted, it's a startup, or a very, very large startup with a lot of talent and money. And we have Stephen Fox, who he and I talked a lot about the titanium economy last night. And then Arra's going to talk to us about hydrogen. We talked about decarbonization and hydrogen. This is going to be a fabulous discussion. I'm going to go sit down, tend to be quiet, and ask each one of them, starting right from my left, to tell you a little bit about who they are, what's most important to them in West Virginia right now, and most compellingly, why they are here. That's the answer we really want to hear. We've heard it before, but we want to hear it again. So with that, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Steve Fox. Steve?
Everybody stand up now. Yeah. So, as Scott said, I'm not from around here. I hail from the UK. I've been in the US for coming up 28 years. I live out in the West in Nevada. So happy to be here. It's such a dynamic state and such a dynamic group of people. I'm representing here Titanium Metals Corporation. We're part of Precision Cast Parts, which is also part of the Berkshire Hathaway family. I'm here really because we are thrilled to be putting in the world's most modern, newest titanium melting facility, and it is going to be powered 100% renewable solar field there that the Berkshire Hathaway folks are putting in. It's going to be really the first of its kind type of a microgrid with a lot of battery storage and so forth. And that is really going to make a huge impact on how we look at and how we think about how we're going to decarbonize our business. Our business primarily is commercial aerospace. Commercial aerospace, we supply titanium across pretty much every platform, engine, so forth. The aviation industry represents about 2-3% of global emissions today, but it's growing, and it's growing rapidly in these emerging economies. The industry needs 40,000 airplanes. Can you fathom that over the next 20 years? 40,000 aircraft. About half of that is fleet replacement. That's going to be an incredible demand. We've got to take carbon out of our industry in order to meet the demands of that business. Why are we here in West Virginia? Because West Virginia, at the state level, at the local level, has created an environment that makes it just the perfect place to do this kind of innovative industrial thinking from a regulatory standpoint, just helping everybody think about the challenges, thinking about the opportunities, break down the barriers, and allow this thing to go forward. We're moving on this investment at a very fast pace. Unfortunate events in the Ukraine took about 30% of the world's titanium supply away from the major aircraft producers in Airbus and Boeing. We've got to fill that gap, and we've got to fill it quickly. And we're doing that on the back of the biggest recession we've ever faced going through COVID. So very, very challenging, a lot of opportunities, and we're very, very excited to be here and very, very grateful and thankful for the state of West Virginia to have enabled this to happen in the way that they brought this together. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Stephen. Scott and team, I want to thank y'all for the invite to participate in this. It's greatly appreciated. My accent is a little closer to West Virginia than Stephen. I actually grew up in the Bluegrass State, very small rural community that reminds me very much of Mason County, West Virginia. It's where we're going to build a facility. The question is, why am I here? You could actually take a few of Nathan's slides and kind of mix those together, and that would build a strategic case for why Nucor is in West Virginia. On top of that, why is John Farris in West Virginia? One, it's a real blessing to me and my wife of 36 years, Dina, to be given the opportunity to lead Nucor's largest greenfield investment in a great part of the United States right here in West Virginia. And for me personally, it's not about watching a caster cast a slab. It's really about growing leaders that are hometown heroes within the state of West Virginia and building a world-class competitive steelmaking team in the West Virginia community. So that's why I'm here in a nutshell. I've been fortunate to be with Nucor for 31 years. It's been an awesome journey. It's a fantastic company, and it has impacted my life and my family's life forever. So thank you.
Thank you. Is this lavalier, is it on? You all hear okay? All right, thank you. How's my accent? Comparison. Good? All right, we'll turn it over now to Mr. Ted Wiley from Form Energy.
Great. Hey, folks. I'm Ted Wiley. I'm one of the co-founders and the president of Form Energy. And Our journey to West Virginia started last January. Last January, we are a relatively new company. We're just about 6 years old, and we're making large-scale batteries. Think batteries the size of a football stadium. Massive batteries for the grid that back it up, provide energy security and reliability to the grid. Actually in events like the one that Nathan was showing that happened in Texas. So we are a long-duration energy storage company. And in particular, we're making those batteries out of iron. Iron is the core ingredient. And so we started out in 2017. We now have about 450 people operating in Massachusetts, California, and Pennsylvania. That team is scientists and engineers that have designed the batteries. About a year ago, we came to the place where we said, okay, we are ready to start thinking about where we're going to build these things. We need to go look out across the United States and find a place where we can build them. We're going to need to bring 250,000 tons of iron into the site every year at capacity to turn them into batteries. We're going to need river. We're going to need rail. We're going to need outstanding people that know how to make something out of iron, something great out of iron. And so we began our site selection process setting out the criteria in January of 22. And then in March of 22, I was invited to come to Charleston by the Department of Energy as a part of an interagency working group looking at, are there any companies out there that are thinking about building manufacturing in the Appalachian region? That was the focus of that discussion. And I was just about to go start visiting sites. We had 16 states all along the Atlantic coast, the Gulf Coast, and up and down the Mississippi River. And West Virginia had several sites that were on my list. I had about 90 sites at that time, down from an initial 500. So there were 90 sites in the US, and there were 6 in West Virginia. And I thought, this is great. I'm going to go ahead and kick off my search. So I arrived in Charleston the night before. 6 a.m., I went out to Ravenswood, where the precision cast parts effort that Berkshire Hathaway ended up being located. I was met by Marky Siegel and Senator Glenn Jeffries. 6 a.m. We went and toured that site, and I saw an amazing site on the river, with ability to unload and load barges. It had been used to cast aluminum, but I saw that and said, this has all the infrastructure, all the capabilities that I would need. I drove up the Ohio River and visited, several other sites that day, and I ended the day in Weirton. And Weirton was so impressive to me. I looked at Weirton, West Virginia, and I saw a place that used to employ 14,000 people at the steel mill. 14,000 incredibly hard workers, and one of the most important steel mills in the country. And it had declined down to about 650 people working there today, plating tin for all the tin cans and whatnot that we use. And I thought, I have 15 more states to visit. There's stuff in Louisiana and Tennessee and North Carolina, South Carolina, all these places. But I had this feeling, it was the end of my day, I had this feeling, I think this is it. I think this is it. And it had the river, it had the rail, it had incredible people, it had this gritty determination, and it's this immense site where we could not only locate the 750 jobs that we aim to employ to create that factory, initially, but it had a lot of room for expansion. And then the other thing that I would add is, why are we in West Virginia? There's this amazing ecosystem in West Virginia. There's an energy and a motivation to come back and to thrive and to be a part of what's next that I felt in West Virginia that I didn't necessarily feel. And this is kind of fast forwarding to the other places we visit. But West Virginia, it not only had the infrastructure and the people, it just had this buzz, this energy that I felt that this is a place that is poised for a comeback, a place that is poised to rise and be a part of what's next. And I really loved that. So I am also very excited to be here, to be joining the West Virginia community, to be joining the Weirton community. We've already hired 4 people from the city of Weirton. They're currently reporting in our Pennsylvania location while we build. And we'll be having our groundbreaking for that factory in late May, as soon as we get all the permits done and whatnot. But we are very excited to be here. So thank you very much.
We're excited you're here too. Turn out to my friend Hines.
Thank you, Scott. I'm Arria Hines. I'm the CEO of Allegheny Science and Technology. Can you guys hear me? Is this working? It's working, right? Okay. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. As Scott mentioned, Allegheny Science and Technology is a homegrown West Virginia company. We're based out of Bridgeport. We also have an office here in Morgantown. If anybody's been down the street, they've probably driven past. But we have worked in the Department of Energy space for over 10 years and also in the energy sector. And across that time, we have really, my company is focused on clean, renewable energy. We work in that R&D sector to help alongside the Department of Energy to develop clean, sustainable technologies. And it's a broad array from small modular nuclear reactors to wind, solar, fuel cells, hydrogen, which is why I'm here today. And I gotta tell you, you ask why we're here. ARCH2, which is the Appalachian Regional Clean Hydrogen Hub, this is the DOE released a FOA back in September, funding opportunity announcement is what it was. And we teamed up, and this really all came about, I always give a lot of gratitude to Senator Manchin, Senator Capito, Congressman McKinley, and Governor Justice, Secretary Carmichael, Mike Graney. They were big parts of getting this FOA released, okay, with the IRA and the bill infrastructure that's been released. And what I say all the time, this is an unprecedented time. Right now, we have to carpe diem, seize the moment. As you know, Gail mentioned, as everyone's mentioned, there's a lot of funding, there's a lot of opportunities, and this is an unprecedented time for Appalachia. And I can tell you, being from here and still living in a disadvantaged community and having families that have worked in natural gas and in coal, I know that these opportunities, we cannot sit aside and let them pass us, okay? And so that's my passion for ARCH2. But we've joined forces, so I'm here today to share with you knowledge about what the Hydrogen Hub will bring to Appalachia, what it looks like, some information. I think you're going to ask me some questions, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. One piece of great information is this has been a heavy lift, as Scott said. I was in Columbus last week. We've been heads down in this with Battelle, GTI, EQT, and 15 project developers that are either in the state or have coming to the state for clean hydrogen projects. So it's exciting, and the actual FOAs are due Friday, April 7th, and we are targeted to put ours in tomorrow morning. Yes, it's going to be great. It's going to be a winning application, no doubt.
It's due on the 7th,
Due on the 7th.
but you're done today.
Oh, heck yeah, you got it.
Get it okay.
You can't wait till the day, because everybody else is going to be uploading. No, you got to get it in, and at AST, our big thing is you have to bring a receipt back from an adult to know that it's actually delivered.
That's right. So it's not working? Okay. Thank you. So thank you very much. My mic wasn't working, which some people would say is a blessing. Mike, hey, let's just hear it for all of them collectively one time again. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. It's such a wonderful message, and we've heard about the governor's office and the senator's office and the federal offices and the economic development office, Mitch and Mike Graney, and the great work they've done. One other shout out I'd like to give is to the local economic developers. I see Marv Six sitting here. I mean, they have really, it's been such a wonderful partnership from the local right on up through our State Department and through our federal delegation. Everybody has worked together. That's the one thing I've heard more than anything else why West Virginia is winning now, is because of the team that is assembled and how they're so unified in their effort. So Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, in a recent issue of Foreign Affairs magazine, it just came out in April, he wrote an article in there about innovation. The whole edition was dedicated to innovation. And he said innovation will define the future of geopolitics. Who can innovate faster and better will be the foundation of military, cultural, and economic power. And it's a powerful article from a powerfully informed individual. I highly recommend the read. But what I want to ask our panelists is just a little more about their innovation, because they're really bringing some fabulous innovation to us. Not just technical, but it could even be in the instance of how they organize their teams, how the teammates, as Nucor says, right? How you all work together. So let's start with Steve. Steve, just tell us a little more about the innovation, maybe what we talked about last night with the titanium economy.
Yeah, for sure. So the potential for us here in this facility, I'll talk about a couple of things first. The facility that we're going to be putting in there in Jackson County is going to bring forward a lot of things we've been working on over the last 20 and 30 years, and we're going to pull all of these things together into one facility. It's going to integrate a lot of our supply chain and so forth that we're pulling together. And it's going to form the blueprint for where we go forward from this. So as we're working with our workforce here and our engineering team that we're going to put together, we're going to be driving the blueprint for all future titanium melting that will flow out. So that's going to be fantastic. There's also an enormous amount of work to go in terms of how we're going to work the power supply side on this piece. But one of the things that I do want to talk about here is around when you think about the titanium side of things in the aerospace economy, people are building planes here up and down the eastern seaboard and a little bit in there down in South Carolina and in Alabama. And West Virginia's got the beginnings of an aerospace hub here in the titanium side of things. And one of the things we've seen as we talk to our customers about what our plans are here, they're learning about West Virginia in that aerospace manufacturing supply chain for the very first time. And my hope and expectation is that's going to bring a real cluster mentality into the space, a lot of support structure and a lot of things. So we're not having to move so many things around the country to get to the end parts. There's so much downstream of what we're going to be doing that will benefit from us being here. And we really see this as an opportunity to really kick off an awful lot of new manufacturing into this space that will also, in its way, leverage innovative manufacturing skills, whether that be 3D printing and those kinds of manufacturing technologies, or just the latest and greatest in automation and Industry 4.0 and Internet of Things kinds of things that everybody's driving into their businesses today. So I see really a lot of opportunity there to flow out. Is that?
No, that's right on the money. And last night I actually spoke to a couple of people that remain nameless, but they actually have titanium in their hips. So that product is widely used. And then it's hard to get on the airplanes full of arrows. Yeah. Thank you very much. That was right on the money. Appreciate it. John, how about sharing a little bit with us about innovation in Nucor? Because you guys have been tremendous over history.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. You guys hear me? Oh, is that, okay. Sorry about that. Thank you, Scott, for that. The United States steel industry has been undergoing for decades now kind of a structural transition away from integrated style blast furnace production to electric arc furnace. And you heard the story from my panelist colleague here about the Weirton Steel. Nucor's melt scrap. Our primary energy that we consume in order to convert scrap into a finished steel product, take an old washer dryer, make a new washer dryer out of it, is electricity. And that is how we're leveraging a much cleaner, more sustainable solution to steelmaking as it relates to integrated. So we're about 0.43 CO2 per ton, where an integrated would be just north of 2 tons of CO2 per ton of steel produced. The United States is leading globally this transition. Within the United States, we think Nucor, the largest steel products producer in North America, is leading that transition. And we're thrilled to death to be making a $3 billion plus investment in West Virginia to take advantage of the synergies that exist within the state and the renewable energy opportunities, the hydrogen opportunities that may transition into steelmaking. And we're looking very closely at that. How can we further reduce our carbon production as we produce steel? One of the other innovative things that I think has been the engine that has driven Nucor to be this little steel company that existed in South Carolina to now the largest producer is really imagine this. Imagine a company of 31,000 people, which is the breadth of the company today, where all 31,000 people act as an owner. Not as a worker, not as that us and them paradigm where there's the bosses and the workers, but everybody acts as an owner. And in order to facilitate that, there's a certain way you engage owners within a company. It's a certain way the vice president and general manager engages owners within the company. And it creates a very flat organizational structure throughout the teams all across the United States. What that generates is the ideas, the value creation, and much of that is around innovating to provide a competitive advantage and a better solution to our customer base. A couple of years ago, through some of this innovation, not only with the Nucor team, but also with our customer base and the close relationship there, Nucor pioneered the very first net zero carbon steel supply of product anywhere in the world. And we coined that Iconic. And we're shipping that across all of our steel mills can produce that steel. And not all customers are looking for that, but there are customers that you will all know that are very interested in that. It would be Amazon, Tesla, General Motors. And working in collaboration with them and these little engines of innovation that we have all across the United States where people are acting as an owner and we're working shoulder to shoulder, we come up with the world's first net zero steel at scale.
That's a fabulous story. Thank you very much. I'd like to turn it over to Ted now to talk a little bit about innovation, but also perhaps he would share with us what he did yesterday. I think you were at the White House in Washington, and I think that's an important story to share before you talk about innovation, if you would.
Okay, sure. So yesterday I was at the 2-year anniversary of that session that first brought me to West Virginia. It's an interagency working group. So all the different cabinet level folks have come together and said, how are we going to support energy communities in the United States? They had an annual meeting a year ago. The second one was yesterday. It had, again, the Secretary of Energy, Secretary of the Treasury, and other folks there thinking about how we're going to support coal communities and energy communities throughout the country, but in particular in the Appalachian region, as we go through the 20-year transition that Nathan was referring to transition the economy to be, the economy of the future. And yesterday, was there actually Gail Manchin was there, which was wonderful. She was equally impressive yesterday as she was today, by the way, I'll say. One of the big topics was the Inflation Reduction Act, which is an incredibly powerful driver for innovation in the economy. It creates certainty for companies like us that if we build it, there's going to be demand initially while we scale up and get to cost competitive. And I think that actually ties back to the main topic of innovation. Like for us, for Form, what is innovation? We started out as a team of 5 founders, and we were looking at the charts that McKinsey produces. We were looking at these energy transition charts and saying, what does the future of electricity look like? And in particular, what's missing? What do we not have in hand technologically that we need to build the electric grid of the future? And to us, we started doing some modeling, and we looked at, for example, storage generally, and we looked at the energy storage, the batteries that are going to be in electric vehicles, and said, as a storage asset for the grid, they don't get there. They never get cheap enough. In fact, we need batteries that are something like between 10 and a factor of 10 and a factor of 100 cheaper. Lithium-ion batteries today cost about $300 per kilowatt hour. They may be, if you get down to the lowest cost they could get, if you drive down toward just the cost of the materials inside, they could get down to about $100 per kilowatt hour as a battery plant connected to the grid. Our modeling said that we need something more like $10 per kilowatt hour to really have a solution that not just provides that reliability, but is cost effective, doesn't cause people's utility bills to rise. And so that was the beginning of our innovation journey. We said, okay, is there anything out there? And we did a search of all the ways, not that we make batteries today, but that you could make batteries. And we came up with what are the lowest cost materials that you can use to store energy. It was things like aluminum, sulfur, iron, magnesium, zinc. Those were kind of the pathways that our modeling showed. And then, our innovation pathway actually took us through Nucor after that. So Nucor, he was mentioning that Nucor is primarily electric arc furnace steelmaking. One of the inputs we found to electric arc furnace steelmaking is a pellet iron. It looks like a marble called direct reduced iron. 120 million tons of that stuff is produced a year. And our scientists and engineers looked at direct reduced iron and said, this would be a perfect electrode for a battery. It's highly porous, high surface area, high purity, and it's already made in very high volume. And so we actually reached out to Nucor, and by the way, just a side note, the Nucor folks introduced us to the state economic development team. They said this is one of the best, if not the best teams in the state, or in the country, rather. They've got it on fire, and you should talk to those folks. They're really great. So, Nucor not only took us down to a direct reduced iron plant to look at how they make the direct reduced iron, but they also introduced us to the folks here in West Virginia, to Secretary Carmichael and Marky Siegel and Mike Rainey and others on that team, which was amazing. And the net result of it was, for innovation, we found, and why we down-selected to iron, we found that you can make a battery that is dramatically cheaper because the materials are cheaper, because the iron is cheaper, using the material that's already going into the steel industry. And that really is at the core of our innovation. The core of our innovation is making a battery that is not just not just lower cost than by 10 or 20%, but a factor of 10x lower cost than where lithium ion will ever get to. And that, by the way, that's the perfect battery to build in the Rust Belt, a battery made out of iron.
That is a great, great story. And the fact that they're working together that's fabulous. And having these companies tell other companies that are thinking about West Virginia is the best message. Because when they hear other companies have had a great experience here, it gives them confidence that they will as well. So, Arria, Mike Rainey wants us to clap. Let's do it. Mike told me to say that last night. No, he didn't. I said it on my own. Arria, share with us a little bit, if you will, please.
Okay, so I can put a bow on what they've said. They're all partners in Arch 2, and they're actually the real innovators. And with the $1.25 billion that DOE is putting out, they're also matching them dollar for dollar and more than that as far as the cost share that's required. So the real innovation is happening all across, all the companies, all the project developers. It's happening in this room. When I think of innovation, we all know that in Appalachia, we've been very innovative, quite frankly, because we've made a lot with little over the years. We've always been innovators, and that's why this is really a grand opportunity. Part of the innovation of the Appalachian Regional Clean Hydrogen Hub is that it's not just one location, okay? It's multiple projects that are throughout, they encompass the entire state of West Virginia. We have the Ohio River Valley, Kanawha Valley. We have lots of areas that there's going to be projects developed. They're going to be developed in eastern Kentucky, in southeastern Ohio, and Pennsylvania, and southwestern PA. So we're actually doing a regional approach, okay? And no one can do it alone, right? Success is not built on one person or one innovation. It's one thing that makes a puzzle come together. And that is what we're seeing today. We're seeing it with Secretary Carmichael's, with the economic development, with the legislature, with the federal funding. It's all creating the innovation that's going to bring the pieces and parts together. So for example, in the regional hub, we're looking at producing, okay? Well, first let me back up. It's actually a 10-year span. So DOE possibly will make awards. Everything will be negotiated maybe January 2024. That's when the rubber will meet the road as far as what's going to happen. There's a phase one. Okay, that phase one is really analyzing and taking a deeper dive into the technologies that are being developed by the project developers to create the clean hydrogen and carbon sequestration, right? We have to decarbonize to get clean hydrogen, to produce clean hydrogen, we have to decarbonize. So there's multiple innovations that are going to take place here, not just clean hydrogen production, but also carbon reduction, decarbonization has to happen alongside this. We're looking at, by the time this is done, we hit 2030, 2033, okay? We're going to look at producing in this Appalachian region and make our own hub. It has potential for connectivity of 2,200 metric tons of clean hydrogen a day, okay? And we're going to get that down to just a little over $2, okay? Then the other key part here is we're projecting in our technologies and innovations that we're looking at that the carbon, it'll be 1.5 kilograms of carbon per clean hydrogen, okay? Per kilogram of clean hydrogen. So that's, DOE is only looking for 2. We're going to exceed what their potential is. And truly, to actually put this application together, we had to look at technologies that are already at a technical readiness level of 6, okay? And for those of you who are familiar with that, that means the concept has to have proven. You have to have some type of data. You have to have, either it's been proven, it's been technologically evaluated to get it there, okay? So these aren't things that are just, pie in the sky. These are real innovations that are going to come online. And we are projecting, actually, we have early, green hydrogen that could come online really by the end of 2024. We have green hydrogen from renewables. We have biomass. We also, and then of course the majority of our feedstock is blue hydrogen from natural gas, low carbon intensity natural gas.
So two of the sites will be selected have to be in natural gas producing areas, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good news, because this is an area of natural gas production.
And we're sitting on an abundant, that's the thing, I always make the comment, and many of the natural gas producers here in the room know, that, if we were our own country, we would be the second largest producing country for natural gas in the world. So it's pretty amazing statistic.
That's great. CH4 is good stuff. I'm not a chemist, but I can understand that pretty well. 1 C and 4 H's, pretty good. We want to really save some time because we want you all to participate and ask the group up here questions. But as you can see, as we asked it, we didn't know, but they're already all partnering together. And what a great story, Ted, that you shared about how Nucor helped you take a really good look at the state. And I see Mike Graney's still greening over there from the side. It's just fabulous. Let me ask you, let's get to the question I was going to have towards the end, but I'll ask it now. And that is about education. Dawn and I were talking earlier. We wanted to make sure that we asked, what do you all need from education? And later today, she's going to ask the education panel, what do you need from business? So as explicitly, we talked about it last night, Steve, as explicitly as you can, please share with us, what do you need education to do to help provide the workforce and everything else that you need to be successful?
So that's a great question. It's a tough question. What do we need? We're new to the state. We've got a presence down in Huntington that we've had for a long, long time, but we're bringing a whole new thing here. And there's going to be several phases to this as we proceed. There's the short-term need in terms of as we build this facility and as we get up and running and making sure that those skills are going to be needed. The kinds of skills that we need are going to be the same skills that everybody needs. It's high-quality engineering across the range of skill sets there. Trades and crafts, you hear every day about that still remains across the country real big challenge, whether plumbing and welding and mechanical skill sets. Those are all absolutely key. From an educational standpoint, though, I like to take a longer view on this, right? Because those near-term challenges, we're just going to break those down and attack those as we come to it. But from an educational perspective, my experience, and I've been very passionately involved in trying to drive education, both in my home country in the UK and out west, is you got to hit it at every level because individuals develop at different speeds, different rates. You can have kids who are very engaged and scientists and fascinated, curious at 6 go through some period of their life where, what's the point? Some of them get it back, some of them don't. So you've got to be able to hit children, young adults at every point, because you never know when you're going to connect and be able to bring somebody to that place where they can realize their full potential. We're in a science, technology, engineering space, so STEM skills and all of those things are going to be the places that we're always looking for. One of the things that make our best employees is curiosity. Right? Are they curious? Are they always looking for the how do I do this better? How do I solve these problems? So problem-solving skills, creativity. With your tendency to think about science and engineering as precise and exact, but the best engineers are those that are creative in the way they apply those skills and not just applying a set of formulas. Sure, you want those people. You want those very analytical, detail-oriented people, but really what drives innovation is the creativity amongst the science and engineering teams there. Many of our best innovations come from interacting with the people that are really involved hands-on with the equipment, with its maintenance, with its engineering. They're the people that connect us to what works and what doesn't work in how our equipment and how our processes are working, and that's the connection. So those baseline mechanical skills, absolutely key. And I just want to draw attention. I've got Brandy Scally. Brandy, can you stand up? Sorry. So Brandy's here representing Titanium Metal. She's in our human resources team. She's got a lot of experience of connecting through your schools, local colleges, universities, and helping to build those programs. But that's what we're looking for is just to really partner on building not only the technical curriculum, but how that's delivered and how across the board, whether it's for ourselves or Nucor, deliver the best people for our industries going forward, because we'll all succeed better together than separate.
Well, for your co-panelists answer in their own way, I'd like to thank you and ask you a question. Will you join our Speakers Bureau that the Public Education Collaborative has? You and or some of your teammates, we need to get out into the schools. We need to get out. I know, Mike Green, you've talked about this for years, how the business community needs to get out in the schools and share with them all the great opportunities that are ahead. So we have a Speakers Bureau. Donna Peduto will be glad to get you signed up. Right, Donna? If Donna's, yeah, she will. And just another shameless public, I have a logo here that says STEAM TAC on it. We have the STEAM Technical Assistance Center, and we're doing that all over the state, and we're really trying to give kids an immersive opportunity to do just what you said, to learn, to be curious, to try, to apply, to have fun. Like a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Mary Poppins was right. Let them have some fun, right? All right, John, if you'll share with us your thoughts on.
Yep, thank you. I 1000% agree with your comment that industry business has a huge responsibility to engage the educational community and really describe what exciting opportunities there are, all the way into elementary school, through high school, and if that individual chooses to go further, to stick with them. If we look at a kind of a long view of the United States, we were an industrial powerhouse in the 19th century, and in the 20th, the 19th and the 20th, and now that we're in the 21st century, through the 20th, we saw industries leaving the United States and offshoring. We're starting to see those come back. And I don't know if industry kind of huddled down and we were being protected, but we need to get out and work closely with educators. One of the things that, as I was asked to lead this project, it was, how is this paradigm going to need to be different? And if I think about Nucor and the thousands, millions of decisions that the company makes daily, the context of those decisions is happening within a steady state, continuous improvement type environment. But if I look at the opportunity for Nucor, West Virginia, our steel mill only exists on a piece of paper. It's not there. So what would it look like to optimize, not in a steady state run mode, but what does it look like to optimize for the first 5 years, through construction, into startup, the acquisition of the team? And Marky Schindler, who is sitting right here, Marky, would you mind standing up? She's going to kill me after this. She's going to fire me after this. Is what yeah. So one of the things that Marky's helping us with is, how is that different? What things do we need to throw the playbook out on these first 5 years in order to optimize for that period of time? And she's been a huge help. Marky actually worked with Mike Graney and Mitch Carmichael, and we really appreciate their support of the project. They've been wonderful to work with. I lost my train of thought here. But one of the things, well, there's many things. One of the things that we set out to do was that steelmaking has an image out there. One, it's a male-dominated environment, and there's a lot of old guys like me walking around with hammers in our hand. The steel industry isn't that way today. Our jobs are technical, and they're very processed, very automated. So we specifically want to target women and encourage more women to say yes to a career in steelmaking. And they have the blessings that I have had, and 31,000 of us have. And some of the things that we're going to do locally on campus is child care facility. And try to remove some of those barriers that maybe a single mom. Yep.
That is a fabulous example I hope that others emulate.
Yep. So we're trying to look at what are some of the barriers that a female would be reluctant to choose steelmaking. That's one. Gail mentioned something this morning too, and I think all businesses need to play a role in this. We all know people that are in recovery or have suffered from the struggle of substance abuse. There's people in my family that have done that. I've witnessed that. Those are our brothers and sisters, fellow Americans. And if we can help them get on a path of sustained recovery, then a company like Nucor needs to provide them an opportunity for a career that generates hope and a future bright with prosperity. And so we're going to specifically target that. That's different than what we've done before. We've never specifically targeted women, and more than just maybe saying it, but actually putting our dollars on the ground around the plant in the form of child care, other types of training, but also in the substance recovery front too, with the great people at Jobs and Hope. Marshall University Addictive Medicine Clinic, been wonderful to work with. And so those are some of the things that we're doing. Now, technical skills, any of those are good. But there's really three things that we're looking for to really get in the gate in Nucor. We need responsible people that are open to feedback and bring a sense of gratitude to the workplace. If they do that, I'm telling you, there's no company on planet Earth that can beat a team of people that exhibit those three things right there. It's simple.
That is awesome. Thank you very much, John. Thank you. So Ted, you have a lot ahead of you, what you're going to do up there on that old Weirton site. What do you need from education to make sure we can provide the workforce that you need? And then answer any other question you want to.
Well, I think that, John really said it. Like, he hit on several points that we're thinking about really hard as well. So to start with, of the 750 people that are going to operate that factory, probably 550 of those people are non-degree positions, do not require a 4-year degree, but require somebody that is, some of those things that John was mentioning. People that are dedicated, people that bring, gratitude to the day, people that we can count on. We're looking for people that are good with their hands and people that have mechanical aptitude. But the reality is, there is no iron air battery manufacturing in the United States. This will be the first. So we will have to develop the training program to train people that bring a lot of potential and a great attitude to teach them how to make the batteries that we're going to make. And that's going to require partnership with the universities. It's going to require partnership with community college. in the area. Probably West Virginia Northern is the closest, down in Wheeling. It's going to require partnership with the state universities for this. For the other 250, 300 people that we're going to bring into the company, that are the engineering teams, the supply chain teams, the quality teams. And so we are actively reaching out now to Marshall, to West Virginia University, to West Virginia State University, to start that process, to start thinking about how can we source your graduates that are coming out soon, but also how can we connect with your alumni? How can we connect with phenomenal people who've gone out into the economy and might be wanting to move back to West Virginia, might be wanting to come back here and get closer to family and get closer to home. So I think that it's going to require the co-creation of the curriculums that result in the training that populate the factory. Diverse workforce is incredibly important to form. We are about 40% women right now, 60% men as an organization, and the demographics of our organization roughly mirror the demographics of the U.S. They're posted on our website, and we would like to continue that tradition as we move from a science and engineering company into a manufacturing company. And that means the kinds of things that John was talking about, having on-site childcare, but also having a workplace that we don't just bring people in that bring a diverse set of viewpoints, perspectives, and backgrounds, but also we create circumstances that help them thrive. That is also going to be incredibly important. And so we're going to be thinking hard about what particular avenues that takes, but for sure, it's going to have to be different than it looked over the last, say, the last several decades to build what we aim to build next.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, these are your partners already, and they're already doing so much. But let me say this. You have a successful woman. Everything they've talked about doing here, you have incarnate here. I mean, she has done a fabulous job with Allegheny Science and Technology, and I appreciate everything you've done to make a lot of people's dreams come true already. So share with us whatever you'd like to add to what they've already said.
Well, thank you, Scott. Well, first of all, I didn't do it alone. I'm just a facilitator is what I say in my company. There's a lot of people that make things happen, and I'm very thankful for all of them. We really do work as a family. I will tell you, the education piece is really at the core of our future. And I know that the speaker series here in West Virginia that was developed, with Donna Patuto and a lot of other people, that was a brainchild we started thinking of several years ago, and then unfortunately the pandemic hit, and it didn't really get to come to life. And I really hope to see that, because having raised children here in West Virginia and Appalachia, we all know, we're all sitting in this room, and we know our children are going to do fine. But there's so many children, then when we talk about the opioid epidemic, that do get left behind. And I really think about this from a broad spectrum, okay? It really does take a village. Children have to, it's like all of us, right? It's like when you say to somebody, hey, I'm going to build this hydrogen, new economy, everything's going to be, and people say, well, what's it look like? What does this look like? So the first image they see is, what's the facility going to be? Well, it's multiple facilities. It's not just one thing, it's a hub. Okay, you have to get that image, right? And that's what we have to do with the children. We have to give them the image of what type of careers are there. So for example, in my company, I have a broad range. I mean, I have financial analysts, budget analysts, chemical engineers, hydrokinetic engineers, nuclear engineers, a large array of people, okay, in what we do, at AST. But in this hydrogen economy, we're going to build on the workforce that we currently have, that we know is already used to working on a very safety-conscious, high-risk area such as coal and natural gas. But when you look at this hydrogen economy that we're starting with this FOA, right? This is going to come online in 2024, and as I said, it's not going to happen overnight. So one, we got to keep the momentum, and if you're thinking of a 10-year span, we got to be talking to 8-year-olds, right? And we don't just need engineers that are going to work in this, highly technology area of hydrogen, but we need machinists. We need electricians. I mean, we're working with all sectors here, and we got to take this stigma away that everybody has to go to college. They don't, right? There's so much opportunity. And one of the things that I'm really, really excited about with this hydrogen FOA is that the DOE is requiring a 40% impact back into disadvantaged communities, okay? They're not saying 40% of the dollars, but they're saying impact, okay? How are we going to make that impact? We're trying to figure that, what does that look like, okay? Actually, 20% of this application is going to be evaluated on our community benefits package. The community benefits package includes community engagement, workforce, DEIA, diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility. That is critical. And I'm not just talking about ethnic backgrounds, I'm talking about children or people from all different walks of life. And part of what we're going to do here is we're going to build these jobs. These jobs are going to be, like I said, machinists, hydrogen engineers. It's going to be a wide range. But these are going to be quality jobs that you can build a future on and build a family on. They're going to be good paying jobs, okay? That's really important. So giving children the vision that there's these, and they gotta see what these jobs are. They don't know, right? Even though we live in a world of YouTube and Google and everything else, they don't know. It's not reality. It's different when Jen and I talk and we say, hey, this is what I do, right? Interesting statistic, I was at WVU last week for the visiting committee, and I was really shocked by the fact that, I'm sure you all will be when I share this, in the B&E school, okay, in the B&E school, which is, marketing, economics, finance, all of the business, degrees, there is 1/3 female to 2/3 male. What's happened? Why are women not going into business? It's the same reason women don't go into science. It's not just the limiting thing, but they don't know what these jobs entail. Business isn't just about finance or accounting. Lord knows I know when I got an accounting degree, and I know when I say something about accounting to someone, they go, oh my gosh, numbers, I don't want to deal with that. But it's also HR, it's human resource management. There's so many components here. So we've got to take this to the schools, work with our educators, and I want, as we're on this topic, one of the things I want to say, and I know we're going to run out of time, is this Arch 2, like I said, community benefits is really a large part, and we are going to win this. And we are going to work with everyone in this Appalachian region, with our business partners side by side. They actually have to create the plans, and we have to ensure that they're implemented. But we will be coming into the schools, and we will be coming into the communities, and we want to know what is needed and how can we help. And since everybody, I do want to point out Mel White, who is our Director of Community Benefits for Arch 2. So I'm sure you all in some way will be hearing from her over the next several months. So thank you.
Thank you, Arra. That was fabulous. Thank you very much. I know that we've hit our time. I know that I talked about getting audience participation. Who's in charge of time? Where's Katie? Yes. May we have a couple questions? May we take a couple questions, Katie? Yes. Let's, and where's our runner with the mic? Okay. Who has a question for the audience? Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask?
One over there, Scott.
Yes, sir. Please.
Hey guys, fantastic panel. Quick question. All of these projects going on, it seems like the last thing, and I've heard the word used, or the phrase used a couple of times, is supply chain, but big organizations like you guys represent, the supply chain is always the last thing that seems to bite certain organizations, people on the you-know-what, after the project has been funded, after all of the engineering drawings and everything have been taken care of. Have you guys started to look at the nodes, the modes, and the locations for what you guys are going to do supply chain-wise to get the big pieces of equipment in and then get your product out when it's when you need to?
How about a team effort on that answer? Which one of you would like to go first?
I'll take a stab at it first.
All right.
Yeah. So absolutely, we have looked at that. We've already purchased all the equipment for the facility, and a part of that is how do we physically get that equipment, much of which is being manufactured in Europe. How do we physically get that to Apple Grove, West Virginia? Mm-hmm. So those logistics are we feel good about in the supply chains for all of that. The others is all the steels and the materials and the rock and all the things that we have to do to facilitate the project. We got 3 West Virginia-based contractors currently working on site now. We've got Nitro Construction in Nitro, West Virginia. Wonderful organization. Think the world of them. Latarte Stone and Gravel, just up the road from the steel plant, has delivered us tons after tons of rock. And we got Canal Stone doing dirt work. So the community there around the mill, it's one, I tell you, West Virginia is a wonderful place to be. And we're so honored to be a part of the West Virginia business community. With regard to once we're in operation, one of the things that was critical for us for selecting the site in Apple Grove was access to water for the movement of material, raw material in and material out. It's the most efficient way to do it, both cost-wise and carbon-wise. It's the most efficient way to do that. So that was critical to us. That supply chain, you're spot on. That's what empowers a very smooth, very optimized operation of a facility. And with the competitive nature that all of our businesses are operating in now, if you don't do the thinking on that, you'll have this nice Lamborghini sitting there ready to go with a Briggs & Stratton lawnmower engine in it. And so we're not doing that. So,
Who wants to beat that bit of imagery?
I'll just pick it up a little bit. So we're at a much earlier phase in our project compared to Nucor, although we are on a very tight timeline. So we've got let's say a lot of opportunities around the logistics piece of bringing the equipment in. We're not on the same scale as Nucor in terms of material in, material out in operation, but we'll certainly be looking to engage locally here with resources that can help us and support us in that, both in terms of bringing equipment in, heavy equipment in, and then managing things downstream. So really looking forward to this type of forum is really our opportunity to engage further and build up those contacts and so forth. So don't hesitate to reach out. And with projects like this, we always need all the help we can get.
That's great. It's good the three of us had dinner last night and planned this question, wasn't it?
Can I add something,
yes,
Scott?
or sure.
I just want to add something. With the Arch 2, with the DOE funding opportunity announcement, there's actually, we have to adhere to the Buy American Act, okay? So we are already working and talking with our project developers, okay? And this is a much more tightened Buy American than it was in the Obama Arria days, okay? So the whole thing here is when you talk about supply chain, that's where we're talking about the grassroots effort of what we can produce. You know, we're going to need electrolyzers. There's some companies locally, but a lot of them are made outside the U.S. We're going to have to produce those here. If not, we got to put in waivers, which is going to slow this development down. So we're already talking with the project developers about the materials that are going to be needed to support this, which again, I think helps rebuild our supply chain here in the U.S. for manufacturing.
Oh, that's fabulous. And with a smile on your face, you look like you're going to be able to accomplish it, right?
Heck yeah,
All right.
of course.
Ted, would you like to share something on this?
Sure. I mentioned in my earlier remarks, the logistics and supply chain footprint was really what got us excited about West Virginia in the first place. That was table stakes. The initial screen has to have river, has to have rail, has to have major highway. A huge benefit, because that direct reduced iron that I was talking about is transitioning from being reduced by natural gas to being reduced by hydrogen. A huge benefit was the presence of a major hydrogen hub initiative and proposal. We couldn't look in the crystal ball and say we're guaranteed that the hydrogen hub is going to be located here, but we thought with the quality of the group coming together to go and make that application that it seemed very likely that there would be a hydrogen hub in our backyard.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Is there? We have 55 seconds. Is there one more question? Yes, ma'am. Yes, please stand and ask the question. Oh, wait for the mic, please. Sorry. Thank you.
I was interested in getting any of the panelists or all of the panelists' kind of opinion on the coal industry, the natural gas industry that's come through West Virginia. It's been a big part of our story, but it's also been a bit exploitative to the people in the environment here in the state of West Virginia. And I think some of the fears of bringing renewable energy and industry into West Virginia is that same idea of out-of-state interests coming in, taking advantage of the people, and then taking the funds back out of state. So I'm curious if some of you being from here and operating here, others of you not being from West Virginia and coming in, how you have plans to ensure that not only the wealth that your operations are generating are equally distributed amongst the people, in-state, out-of-state interests, but also with negative externalities, responsibilities that come along with that. Like we have a lot of flooding in West Virginia. If there's some kind of extreme flood that comes through, causes a spill, that kind of thing. How is the responsibility and the accountability of out-of-state interests also equitably distributed here so that it's not, a repeating pattern of people coming in, taking resources from the state and leaving?
It's a tough question. We are out of time technically, but we are going to answer it. We are. And would you like?
Yeah, I'll take a.
John's going to take the first shot. We do want to answer your question. It's a very compelling question.
I'm probably going to fall flat on my face, but I'm going to make an attempt at it. Whenever Nucor builds that's a very good question about coal. If we look at the skills for people that are working in coal mines, they sit very adjacent to steel making. They're very, very transferable skills. But to the broader question, we're here to stay, for one thing, and we're not going to come take advantage and then leave. That's not what Nucor does. We need to operate this mill for 50 years or so to provide a return on invested capital to be here. When we start a facility up, about 10 to 15% of the overall plant population we'll bring from other Nucor facilities. I would be one of that 10 to 15%. Everyone else we're going to hire from the local community. And each one of our divisions has the underlying culture is the same, but the character of each one of our plants is just a little bit different. And that's because it's capturing the character of the local community. And I really look forward to seeing what that's going to look like in West Virginia, because what I sense is a group of very responsible, hardworking people, fiercely loyal to their family, fiercely loyal to their future. And if we put that inside a steelmaking facility where people are fiercely fighting for their future and the future of their children to provide them more opportunities, I don't think we can be beat at all.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you.
Well, I just want to quickly add, part of this is what you said. We've been in an economy here where, it kind of the peak and, the peak and valleys of natural gas, of coal, right? And you have workers come in, they come here, welders, whatever, right? They go back to Oklahoma, Texas, wherever. All great places, okay? We're all in this together, right? But we are really focusing on sustainable jobs. As they're saying, the project partners in this hydrogen economy and the new that we're looking towards, they're here to stay. And so those workers will be living in these communities. And so we're focused on the sustainable jobs, not the jobs that come in waves, okay? So I know Mel White said she'd like to talk with you later.
I'll just add to that. The way to create prosperity is to make good paying local jobs. That's what we're going to do. All the jobs in the plant are going to be jobs that pay well enough that you can raise a family on it. Yeah. That's the commitment that we're making. That's the commitment that Nucor is making. So that's really at the heart of it. And then to your other point about pollution, emissions, or stuff that comes out of the plant and affects the local area, we got to be good neighbors. Yeah. And when you're committed to coming somewhere and staying there for decades, there's a strong incentive to be a good neighbor. That's what we aim to do.
That's very good, very good. Let me just say in summation, there's an author, Daniel Yergin. Heard him? He wrote a book called The Prize about the history of the oil industry. Then he wrote a book called The Quest. And then he, 2 years ago, wrote a book called The New Map. And he thought he had it all figured out. I think and that trilogy was supposed to be his final. But what you're seeing here today, I think, is who's going to write the next chapter and the next book. And for that, we are all very thankful to each and every one of you for your contributions, for coming to West Virginia, and for staying long term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.